Hello, everyone. Today I have a very special guest. Tim is here from Callirius. I hope I'm pronouncing the name of the project right. I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself and give us a little intro about yourself. Who are you? What is your story? And how did you end up in the place that you are right now?
Yes, sure. Hi, everyone, and thank you for having me here today. My name is Tim. I'm one of the co-founders of Callirius, and yeah. So, how did this story start? So, I come from an investment banking background and used to work in investment banking for more than 20 years. But I personally have always been very interested in technology. So, actually, I looked a lot into blockchain since 2017. And yeah, at some point, I was talking to some like-minded friends if we could do something sort of like going out of our banking comfort zone and doing something on our own. And we initially thought we want to do something with blockchain, something with tokenization. So we looked around, and then coming from our banking background, we saw that especially in the ESG segment. And specifically with everything related to carbon and climate change, that there is a big need. And we saw that there is an opportunity and a need to change something, because not all things were going the way they should do. And yeah, so this is sort of like how we got into ReFi.
Amazing. Yeah, I think your banking background makes your position really special because when you are interested in blockchain and you are contributing to the blockchain ecosystem and you have the traditional finance background, that's the whole package. Then you really have whatever that is needed to create that bridge between the decentralized world and the centralized world. Amazing. Now, many people who are not involved in the regenerative finance world or in the blockchain industry are not really familiar with ReFi projects. It might be a little hard for them to understand what exactly your project is doing. Imagine you want to explain what you do. You want to explain your job, your project to your grandmother. How would you do that? What would you say?
Yeah, that's a tough one, because everything that is related to blockchain obviously is difficult to explain to a lot of people in the world, and ReFi is something very special. I will try nonetheless. So I would say what we are doing is we are helping to channel private money, private investments into the carbon industry. So we're helping to finance projects that actively take carbon and carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere, and thus help to prevent climate change, and at some point also to revert climate change. That's in very simple words. It's a hell of a difficult topic, and it's a super complex, and it's much more complex than that, obviously. But in essence, we're trying to help finance carbon credit and carbon sequestering projects.
Right. Yeah, it is a really challenging question. Whenever that somebody asks me to explain a blockchain concept in an easy term, I really get confused because all of the terms and concepts which are connected to ReFi or blockchain are so complex, and it's really tough to try to explain them to someone who has no knowledge of blockchain. But good job, you explained it very well. Okay, and I have another question. I mean, you said that you have a background in the traditional finance world. That's how you found out the synergies between the ESG blockchain and the tokenization projects that you're working on. But can you mention a specific moment that you thought, aha, okay, this is what I'm gonna do? Like the first moment that you thought of Callirius, the first moment that something happened that made you think, okay, this is the project that I'm going to dedicate myself to.
Yeah, well, there is indeed there was a moment, and that was most likely when we realized at some point, and that was like our aha moment, when we realized why is it actually that a piece of wood is more valuable when it's dead than when it's living, because it's a living tree is obviously generating a lot of value, not only for the owner of the tree, but also for the world and the climate. And this is sort of like our moment when we thought, okay, this is what we want to do. We want to make sure that nature gets value, not only sort of like as a dead product, but as a living product. And this is also when we came up with our slogan, we want to make nature an asset class, which is just as normal to trade and to invest into as are stocks or bonds or commodities or whatever.
Amazing. I love your slogan. We want to make nature an asset class. This is like the perfect asset class for the people who want to earn some kind of income, who want to some kind of invest, and they care about the nature, they care about the environment and our world. Nice. And I know you explained what your project does, but would you like to go a little deeper regarding the problems that your project is trying to solve?
Yeah. So, I mean, everybody who has followed the carbon credit industry, the voluntary carbon market, whatever you want to call it, over the last 12 or 18 months, has most likely realized that there is a lot of things going on there that are not the way they're supposed to be. And specifically, when I got into it, I was pretty naive, as most people are most likely when they come into it, because I thought, okay, so there is projects that are either avoiding the emission of CO2 or are trying to get CO2, which is already in the atmosphere, back out of it. And there is one common measuring unit, which is tons. So basically, carbon credits are quoted as tons. And I thought, okay, in the end, it doesn't matter what you do as long as 1 ton is 1 ton. This can be an avoided deforestation project in Africa. It can be a cook stove project where it is avoided that people burn wood in an open fire, and you give them efficient cook stove, or it could be an afforestation project or even a direct air capture project. And if you come into it for the first time, you see that the prices for these projects are completely different. I mean, there is some credits that are trading below $1, and there is like direct air capture, which costs you about $1,000 per ton. So apparently, the market prices that 1 ton is not 1 ton. And what we've seen over the last 12 months specifically is that journalists and other investigative people have looked into some of these projects and realized that actually 1 ton is not 1 ton. And that in a lot of cases, especially what is called in the so-called REDD+ projects, what claims to be 1 ton, which is avoided emission of CO2 or the avoided deforestation, is actually completely overstated. And this has led in the whole industry, and especially amongst regulators, but also corporates and the public, to the fact that people question everything that is happening in this industry. And that is obviously a shame, because the concept that you do something voluntarily to help fight climate change is actually is an absolute super thing to do. And it's tragic that some companies are now doing stuff, and actually, because they don't know better, they end up in the press being accused of greenwashing. There's obviously the ones that have just seen it as a super cheap marketing instrument, thinking, okay, I want to claim to be a climate neutral company, so I just buy the cheapest stuff that I can find. This is obviously greenwashing and not caring about the economy. And what we're doing is that we have started, and that was sort of like the first thing where we invested in. We have started to build a very stringent due diligence process to make sure that everything that we deal with is without question, or with as little questions, because you can never be 100% sure, of course, but it has as little questions as possible. So that is sort of like the one thing we are solving. When you come to us, you can be sure that we have done our job to make sure that you have good projects on our platform. And the other thing, and the other solution we are working on, a lot of companies have joined, for example, the Science-Based Target Initiative, an initiative for companies that commit to a path to net zero at some point. And part of that is also because there is industries where you just can't completely go carbon neutral over the foreseeable future. Part of this initiative is that companies will reduce their emissions first. And once they have reached the level where they can't go down any further, they use high quality carbon projects to offset the remaining emissions. So that means they will need these carbon credits in maybe 5 or 10 years. And their problem is that they have actually committed to that, but they have no idea what this will cost them in 5 or 10 years. So what we have started to build is an investment fund. We are all sort of like the founding team. We are all ex-bankers. And so one of my co-founders, for example, was the CEO of an investment bank previously, which also had an asset management company as part of the business. So we have said, okay, let's build an investment fund where companies or investors can invest in to make sure that they spend the money today while you still are able to get high quality projects for a plannable amount at least. And so that you can secure sort of like these projects already today. Because the thing is, what we are seeing is that in a lot of, there is a huge gap going up, because especially for these high quality credits, you cannot wait until the need is there, because you have a time lag between the investment and the effect for the climate. Because if you plant a tree today, initially it's small, so there will not be a big impact, and this grows exponentially over time. But you need to wait for 5-10 years. And on the other hand, for the projects that need money to do this stuff, they need the money today, but they can only sell the carbon credits and that come out of it in 5 or 10 years. So somebody needs to finance it, and this is how we're trying to bridge that gap. You can invest today in a diversified portfolio of high quality carbon projects, and they will yield you carbon credits. So it's not directly a financial product. You're actually getting, as a dividend, you're getting carbon credits. But this is what the companies need. And this is basically the second thing that we're doing to make sure that this financing gap is closed.
Thank you for your detailed explanations. You mentioned the term greenwashing. I think that's really important as well. Many companies are using it in their marketing, in their advertising, just trying to say, hey, we are caring about the nature, but they actually don't. So we really need to be careful about that. And at the same time, there are some companies who don't really care about the climate change. They do nothing, but there has been some new regulations which are going to force all the companies to actually take action in the upcoming years. So I think in the future, in the next maybe 2-3 years, there is going to be a lot of attention on projects like yours. So for sure, your project is not the only project in the market who is focusing on carbon markets and the nature and climate change. Can you mention some of your competitors, some of the companies which are somehow offering the same product? And would you please explain what makes you different from them? Why do you think your project stands out among them?
Yeah. So I would separate this into 2 different business lines that we have. We have, on the one hand side, we have a what we call project portal. So it's a portal where you can buy carbon credits, spot carbon credits, and also invest into specific projects. That's the one part, and then the other part is the fund. For the fund, I can make it pretty simple. There is no direct competitors at the moment. This is something which is not available in this form as you have it today. on the portal marketplace, call it whatever you want, there is obviously a lot of different companies that do that. There is large marketplaces like Air Carbon, for example, is one. There is a company like Caesar, for example. These are, in the sense, they are competitors, but that said, they're not really competitors, because these are sort of like more, they have a larger offering, but not the same quality focus, I would say, that we have, which is, I mean, we're sort of like in a, if you want, so we are in this premium niche, I would say. So we restrain from everything that is lower quality. That said, there is a market for that, and there are still companies buying that. So yeah, these are sort of like competitors, but it's not. I think what makes us stand out is really this focus on quality, and that everything that we do, everything that we offer, has gone through a due diligence process, exactly to make sure that our clients are not accused of greenwashing. That said, obviously, the projects that you can buy on our project portal are probably more expensive than what you will find on the average marketplace. And we also actively are in discussions with our customers about claims, for example. We think to make the right claim is important. We actively advise our clients, for example, not to do this I'm carbon neutral just because I have bought offsets, not to do that, but to find a way to communicate what you're doing. And it's, I mean, you do something, you should be able to talk about it. And that is a service that we offer them as well, sort of like consulting service, to make sure that not only they buy the right projects, but also they communicate about it in the right way.
Okay, loved your answer. For sure, this is a huge market, and all of the projects which are trying to contribute to the ReFi industry, they all are trying to offer something valuable. And I think we are at the early stages of regenerative finance. So the more we stand together, the more these kind of projects do collaborations and do partnerships, the faster we are going to like trying to push other companies to follow ESG rules and to be more climate friendly. Great. So is there anything else that you want to share regarding your projects about Callirius?
Yeah, so basically I've said a lot already. So in the end, I think what is important now for us is sort of like that because we are building something new, something that hasn't been there before. We are actively looking still looking sort of like for investors into our funds that are that is obviously something which is super important for us. We as a company, I think I've mentioned most of the stuff, but I think what is really important for us is really was funny, because when we started in this industry, initially some of the companies that are now in the press with negative press about it continuously, they were looking at us like, okay, what do these bankers here want now? And I think in the end, more and more people have realized that only because you come from a bank doesn't mean that necessarily, and I can say this for us as a company for sure, that you're just looking for the short-term profit. And we really care sort of like for the long-term business, because there is no short-term solution for climate change, and therefore you need business models which are also long-term oriented.
Nice. Yeah, I think being an ex-banker is actually an advantage because like some of the people who don't trust the blockchain technology or they have no idea what it is, when they see that the founders of a project are like from the traditional finance, they used to work in a bank, it might create some kind of a more secure atmosphere. They might think, okay, maybe they are more trustable. So I think that's definitely an advantage. So I'm going to jump to the last question. What do you think about the synergies between the blockchain technology and the regenerative finance? So all the projects that are dealing with the climate change and the blockchain technology, what synergies and connection exist there?
Yeah, so I think in that sense, we are actually just at the beginning. And to be honest, we are using blockchain to a much lesser extent today than I would love to do it, because the adoption on the corporate side is not yet there. That said, I think there is, this was sort of like also our original analysis when we looked at it. This is actually sort of like the ideal segment where a blockchain could add value, because there is several aspects that are actually needing the blockchain technology. There is for sure the tokenization of products, which makes it easy to trade them, easy also to trade them in less than 1 ton, because especially if you want to build sort of like automated processes where whenever you buy a product, the relevant carbon footprint can be bought in terms of projects or carbon credits. 1 ton is too much, so you need to fractionalize it. You need to automate it. So all of this is a super use case for blockchain. We also, when we initially got into this market, it's still extremely costly to be onboarded with these other marketplaces where larger volumes are traded. So there is a barrier to entry. Trading with tokenized products is always much more easy, and barriers to entry are there. In the end, at the moment, the way the carbon credit voluntary carbon market works is that you have so-called registries, so companies that are having a register who owns which carbon credit, and if you want to transfer it, you go through them. So it's a centralized layer of trust. These companies, actually, the way I see it, at some point, they shouldn't have a registry sort of like in their own databases. Carbon credits there should be no need for tokenization of carbon credits, because the best way to generate these carbon credits should be directly as a tokenized product. There should be sort of like the registry should be in the blockchain. So that is something where I see a lot of potential, but you need to convince the registries first. And then the whole topic of and we were talking earlier about quality of carbon credits. Quality is also a question of transparency, because if everything is transparent, everybody is free to check if this is really quality. And therefore, blockchain, with its open public ledger being completely immutable, every change afterwards you do will be visible, is actually a great technology. So there is what is called DMRV. So tracking data also, and measuring it, reporting it on a public ledger in the blockchain would be a great thing to do. And at some point, we're actually thinking that it would make sense not to have the need anymore for registries, but sort of like that companies can then issue their own carbon credits, as long as everything is transparent and there is a proper auditor in place who has audited the projects. You could actually, if you issue this as ERC20 tokens, for example, which is a token technology, You can actually even do this on your own, which obviously reduces costs, and costs are obviously for every project, especially for smaller ones, a large issue. So there is still lots of things to be done, and we're super excited to drive all of this, but we're just at the beginning.
Indeed, we are just at the beginning. I'm sure so much is yet to come. And it's really amazing that I see so many projects are trying to find the synergies between blockchain and the carbon markets and the climate change and everything. You mentioned so many great use cases of blockchain in the carbon markets, and for sure, tokenization and fractionalization of carbon credits is revolutionizing the carbon market. But we still need to do a lot. We still need to do a lot of, we need to create a lot of more educational content so that people get more informed about how it's working, and companies, corporations, they need to get more involved in these markets. So I'm done with all the questions. I would love to thank you for taking the time for doing this interview with me. And it was great having you here, Tim.
Great to be here, and thank you very much.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.